A lot of streams today. This the third time.
Um, and this has to be, and this is recording on personnel. This is just so. And you're asking the reason we're here. You're talking about putting your price too high. One, you have an overestimation of your actual level of your overall sexual marketplace value. Okay. At 5'7", you should be closer to about 135 pounds. That's height for me. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear what you think. I don't want what you think. Too low. Okay, I don't want to hear. See, so people understand. As a professional image consultant who does this in real life, who's done it for modeling agencies and casting agencies, I'm talking to a flight attendant who's telling me what's too low. Yeah. You weigh more than a man. It's not too low. Go back into your family album and look at the women about 1920, 30, 40, 50. Go back onto a program called Soul Train and look at the women in the 70s who were 5'7", and you will see they were just size 4, 6. Go look at Thelma on Good Times. She was a perfect example of a 4. You weigh more than a man at your height. I don't want to look sick. I don't want to look sick.
No, you look healthy.
This is why so many women's price is too high. No amount of logic, reason, discernment, when you believe you're whatever, man. The average woman puts on 30 to 50 pounds in pregnancy. If you got pregnant today, you blew to 200 pounds, maybe 220. And then after the first kid, you're not going to drop all the baby weight. If you actually have 4 kids, a guy will probably look at a woman about 220, 230 when you're all done. See, the average black woman today weighs more than the average black man at her height. And you can't tell you nothing about weight. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No physician, no professional can tell you a goddamn thing about it. You know better than everybody. But show me the outcomes. Mm-hmm. So we talk about weight. Sorry. We talk about weight. We talk about weight. That is a component. Then we talk about, your overall look, there is a subjective component to looks, but there's an objective component to looks too. And objectively, when I listen to a woman who would say, I know Kelly Rowland, Beyonce, they've been on the cover of People or Cosmopolitan as the most beautiful women in the world, you're putting yourself up there saying that, yes, People or Cosmo could put me up as one of the most beautiful women in the world, and that would make sense. That's what effectively saying over and over again. And that simply does not hold water in the world I live in. You're free to believe it. You're free to think that. But if you think that of your estimation of your look, and if you think what you said is an estimation of your physique, then you're going to have your price way up here. Versus if you was more in line with what most people see. That's one of the main reasons price is too high. And that's before we get into anything regarding femininity, cooperation, agreeableness, actual wifely skills, anything like that. That's just straight aesthetics. I completely understand what you're saying in regard to that. But like I said, my main question was, how do women determine if their price is too high? Well,
that's what we're trying to work our way through right now, lady.
Well, that's normally not. We don't suffer from a world of women who think their value is too low. We suffer from a world of women who think their value is too high. How do you judge it? On the outcomes. The kind of caliber of men that you think you want or qualify for, or are you trying to make you their wife? Yes or no?
No.
The kind and caliber of men that you think you want, are they actively trying to make you their wife?
Answer. It's a question. Answer.
think, like again, if you were selling a car, you could think your car is worth whatever. You put it out on the lot, the public gets to decide. Men decide. And it's not a matter of women knowing, it's a matter of women accepting. And what this interaction has proven is demonstrated more than anything else, is far more women, sadly today, are more like you, not willing to accept and something that doesn't line up with what they believe or want to believe. I mean, it doesn't matter what scale I gave you about the look. You still said, yeah, I put myself up there with them. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, delusion is allowed, but I mean, it is. Delusion is allowed. You're allowed to say whatever, but it doesn't. But after this is all said and done, when you're out in the world responds to what it is. The men who are sitting in first class or whatever, the men who actually are the kind and caliber men that can afford to live the kind of lifestyle you want to, they're not checking for you. They don't see you. That's just from a look standpoint. Then there's the whole thing about your energy. And that comes into your attitude, the conversations we've had. That I'm quite sure a lot of people don't play this. Because this whole slavery thing, it's like, why do you even want a man? You don't really, because you haven't talked highly about any man. Like there was anything a man does outside of being a wallet.
You got that from what I said.
Judge based on the comments of what other people say. Don't judge me. Judge based on the comments of what other people say in the video. If you think if I'm misinterpreting, I challenge you. When this video is posted, go read what men are saying.
Okay.
Go read what the men are saying.
I mean,
you came on here for a reason. I'm giving you time and time, and I'm telling you what I'm getting from you. What I'm getting from you is a woman who has a low estimation of men. I said what I'm getting from you is a woman who has a low level lack of respect and contempt for men. I'm very clear on what I said. Okay, you're shaking your head.
Do that.
I don't care what you agree with. But I'm telling you how I see. This is when you close it down. And this is what I'm telling you how I experience you. You don't have to accept it, but I'm telling you, that's how I experience you. I have no dog in this fight. I have no reason to down you or up you. I'm telling you what I've experienced from what you said, the things you said, the examples we walked through, and it's become worse as we've gone on, not better. So the more we've dialogued, it hasn't improved. It's gotten worse.
Okay.
So you can shake your head, dig your heels in. I'm telling you, no. And if you really want to know, go back to your exes and ask them what it was like to be with you.
Okay.
Go interview them and say, what is it like to be with me? How did you experience it? And if they can risk being honest with you, take it. Because at the end of the day,
I would actually love that.
Well, and the thing is, but at the end of the day, you got to go out to this marketplace, and the men in the marketplace be some of the same men that see the video. You have to look what the market says. And the market comes back saying, hey, Kevin, you're wrong, man. She's a dime piece, and I'll take her, man. I make her fine. Shoot. Let her know when you fly to sis, I'll take you. But if they're saying, no, man, she's a little rough around the edges. I don't know how they like that, this or that. I mean, what are you going to do? Write them all off as being cracks? Are they all hurt, you know? See, because I know how that works. If you see something you don't like, you can, well, whatever. They're all mad, don't like women, well, whatever. At the end of the day, what we do know is the kind and caliber men you would need to facilitate the lifestyle you have or want. You don't have them actively vetting you to be a wife. That's one thing we do know.
Okay.
And that is an accurate estimation of what he is right now. All right. Talk to you later. Thanks. All right.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
CRM platform like never before. Grow better with HubSpot.
Is your price too high?
No, I don't feel like it's too high at all.
Okay. What do you want?
I feel like I watch you and I listen to everything that you say. And I want a man that's definitely going to be able to pay the bills, like take care of me. But I still want to be able to have the option to work and do like my career, have a career, and still have kids.
How many children do you want?
2.
Okay, so you want it all?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I'm in North Georgia, like Gwinnett.
Okay. Well, are you currently seeing somebody right now that can pay your bills?
No, not at the moment.
When was the last relationship you had?
My last relationship was about 3 years ago. I was with him for 6 years.
And why did you guys get married for 6 years?
I met him in college, and that was my first boyfriend. And so, yeah, I think we just went through a lot. And by the time we got to the end where we could possibly make something work, it just did not work.
Okay, how much money is a man going to need to make to be able to pay all the bills for a family of 4 in Atlanta?
In Atlanta? Probably well over $400K.
Do you care if it's black or not?
No.
Yeah, but he will. The more money men to make, the more racially loyal it's.
Okay.
What percentage of men in this country make $400,000 a year?
Oof, probably like.
She froze on you.
Oh.
After I start my yoga studio, Vistaprint helped me pivot to hot yoga, which doubled my customer base.
I'm listening to wish for a second giant fireball.
Just kidding.
What percentage of men in this country make over $400,000?
I would say maybe 2 to 4%. Probably not a lot.
1%. So let's go back to what you said. I feel, which is kryptonite. Men don't care about what you feel. We think, act, and do. You want it all. At 28 years old, with no man in the pipeline, and you want a top 1% man. What is a man who makes the kind of money you're talking about making? What do those men typically want from a woman?
Youth, beauty, probably it. I wouldn't say submission.
Is that the TV or something?
Yeah, probably is. A TV.
No, the number one thing that men like that tend to want is cooperation. And a man who's making $400,000 a year, at what age do you think men make that legally?
Well over 35.
Well over 35. Men hit that financial stride between 45 and 55. Are you prepared to marry a man that's 45 years old or older?
No.
No, you're a delusional black woman. You don't have any of this in your life. You don't have it in the pipeline. And not only do you want a man who's in the top 1%, you want to be closer to your age, and then you want him to want what you want him to want.
Right.
So, if this is just a math problem, it seems to me that you don't know these men.
Well, I feel like I date men that are ambitious, maybe more so in my age, and then I've started to recently date a lot older men.
But you skip past the question. You don't know these men.
No, I don't know those men that make $500K. No.
You don't even know what they typically want. They typically want a traditional wife, which means your career, let's due respect, why do you need it if you're not paying any bills?
I mean, I still want my own sense of, like, being who I am.
Buy a dog. See, careers are for outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So you want it to look like I got my own sense. Your sense can be to be a wife to a productive, competitive, successful man and a successful mother to 2 children. Why is that not enough?
Why can I not have my career and have my kids and my
Because
husband?
you're not qualified.
What makes me unqualified?
You don't know these men. You don't even know what they want. They don't want what you want traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
You can want it, but this is where it comes right down to what makes you not qualified. When I talk to these men, they don't want modern women. Again, you want your husband to be making $400,000+. Who's going to raise your children? What is your career?
Media correspondent.
Okay. So, when you are off on site, where are the children running?
Daycare.
So somebody else is going to be raising his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
No. Then he might as well marry the nanny.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is this modern power couple. No. Men don't work 70, 80, 100 hours for 20+ years to go marry a woman to just carry their children to allow a stranger to raise them.
Right.
Are your mother and father married? Are your mother and father married?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Was your father the majority breadwinner?
Mm-hmm.
What did your mother do?
She does admin stuff, but my mom they're both from Jamaica, so coming over here, she used to do Coventry Healthcare, so she used to do clerical stuff for them.
Okay. Your mother worked outside of the house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have much respect for housewives?
I do. It's a full-time job. I have close friends that are doing that.
Okay, but the kind of men you're talking about would want a housewife more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're honest, what is the level at the end of your career? Where would you like it to be?
My goal right now is to be like a Jeannie Mai. I want to be a personality that people come and listen to my opinions.
And Jeannie Mai on talk shows?
Yes.
Do you know about how her first marriage turned out?
I did. I do.
Is she talking anything like you now?
Not now, no.
Exactly.
No.
Because it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. But she's still able to have a relationship and be a media correspondent.
Ma'am, she's talking nothing like you're talking now.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. See, your priority, and you're free to choose it, is your media is going to be more important than your man and your family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any men who actually have made themselves the kind of men you're talking about who are not going, they're number one. Their purpose is number two. You're number three. You're looking, basically, the kind of man you're looking for will drive you up a wall. A beta male will allow a woman to be on top. or be equal, and he's making all that money. I think you may have kind of figured what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But what makes you special? Where you can get this?
Well, I've listened to a lot of your things that you say, and you say that these men look for women that are attractive, take care of themselves, and are submissive. And I feel like I do hold a lot of those characteristics.
Okay, there are thousands of you.
Right.
So you're attractive, granted. Take care of yourself, granted.
Mm-hmm.
There are also women who were raised to be first ladies, wives, not wanting to challenge. You want equality.
Mm-hmm.
You want your own identity. Then go work for then marry. Then your man is the institution. Because you got to understand, if you have let's say you and I were married, and I'm making millions, and you're making what?
I would assume just as close to that.
No. Media correspondence from whom?
Depends on where I land.
Right. For every Jeannie Mind, come on. Most of the journalists that I knew in school, they had to work free internships. Journalists are some of the brokest people in the world.
Oh, I know.
So that's not cap.
Okay.
You're talking about trying to be in the top 1/10 of the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Most journalists is broke as French toast.
Mm-hmm.
So, earning what? Before your big break?
Before my big break, I would say probably 50.
50. Baby girl, that's the kind of man, 50 to a man that's making 400.
Mm-hmm.
That's just over 10% of what he's making. It will cost more to hire nannies. New child infant care is $2,000 a month. So if you had a 1 and a 3-year-old, you're looking at $3,000.
So my question, Kevin, though, is because I've had a fork in the road where I either need to pick my career or pick whether I want to be a housewife.
Right.
So it's the rooms of being into the face of the men that I want to be in front of, right? And don't know how to kind of articulate what I'm trying to say, but it's more so like I've been in front of men that make a lot of money, and I feel like I could still do both at the same time.
Well, that's what you.
Still, I have kids.
That's what you think. And see, and I'm gonna just be dead honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
The leverage is on this side,
Right.
not yours. Both men will date you. Both men will sleep with you. Only neither will marry you. Let's see what it comes down to. Neither will marry you. So what it is what we haven't got to. You're coming from a place of you're projecting fear, scarcity, and lack.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you need to have your career and everything else, because what if my marriage doesn't work? What if this? What if that? What if I get lost doing all sorts of stuff? So really, a man at this level would just be hiring you for your DNA. He'd be hiring you to impregnate you, for you to carry the child, to make the child, and then someone else will go raise that child while you're off being a media correspondent, fulfilling your purpose and dream. That's not what these men typically want. But let's be honest, do you really think that, are you really coming from a place where you think your marriage is going to last for 40, 50 years?
Yeah, I truly do.
Okay, then why would you want someone else to raise your children?
I think I've seen my mom do both. So I'm assuming I can also accomplish that.
How many children does your mom have?
Just me.
There we go. Ding, 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 on child syndrome. No, baby girl.
Okay.
No. You're an attractive woman. That ain't enough.
Mm.
I mean, and what you're telling me, ma'am, if I put you in a room with these men, you fast realize how out of step with your competition you really are. Just by the femininity these ladies exude. Their willingness to be the first lady. Versus you were more likely to be over the conversation with the men wanting to exchange opinions. Yeah, that would make great sex. But no thank you. So you have to ask yourself a question. If that's most important to you, then you're talking about a completely different kind of man.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a man who's making close to $50,000 a year if you're fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Could you respect the man making that kind of money?
Mm-hmm.
But you're also talking about a quality of life to where you making 50, he's making 70. Y'all not living in Buckhead. You're not driving from 70. You driving Honda Civics. You're not going to M&M's in New York. Don't be going up shops in Buckhead. Yeah. Every now and then, y'all may be able to go to Papa though on your anniversary or something.
Right.
Can you really live that life?
I don't think so.
Exactly. I'm looking at you now. So the thing is, man, I feel so sorry for so many of our young sisters because you all want this inflated lifestyle. And that's fine to want it, but the kind of man, you would want to date a man that's 45. But then who else is going to make the money? An athlete, entertainer, or a musician, or a D-boy? What this shows more than anything else is men and women that focus so much on who they are. And the world has let you guys do this on what you want. So you have to focus nothing on who the men actually are, what the men actually want. So you don't mean to, but you're really dissing a whole group of men by pedestalizing this group of men, but you're not even giving these people what they want.
Right.
And sadly, so many of our sisters are stuck in this position because of the ego and the pride that comes along with what you're talking about. It's not as though, yes, there are women who can do both, but Jenny Mai has no children.
Yeah.
And her first marriage failed miserably because she was didn't want it to be did. He went off and got married and had kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then complicate this with being an only child kind of thing. A lot of moving parts there, man. A lot of moving parts.
Okay.
I think you need to take some real time to figure out really what you need, not what you want. Okay. What you want may be one thing, but what do you need? Because your people, your family are from Jamaica. I mean, it ain't like you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. So why are you so bougie now?
You just, as I've gotten older, I've learned to spoil myself. So.
On whose money?
My own money.
Making $50,000 a year?
I mean, so during the day, I still work in real estate. And then, of course, as a media correspondent, I have to pick up my gigs on the weekends.
But it still nets to a certain amount of money.
Right.
Are you spoiling yourself without the money? I'm going to spoil myself. Does that mean you roll up into Cartier and it is what it is? Like, can you do that at 28 on your income?
No.
Then you can't spoil yourself, baby girl. But see, the confidence in which so many of you young professional sisters talk is like, well, this is just...
Hey, motherfuckers say whatever they want about this dude, man. Motherfuckers just speak common sense, bro. That's all he doing. Motherfuckers just speak. How you spoiling yourself? Spoil yourself how? I got my nails done. Bitch, everybody get their nails done. They ain't spoiling yourself. You went out and bought yourself some red bottoms and a trip to fucking Greece? You didn't. You can't spoil yourself then. I've grown accustomed to nice things because I spoil myself. Shut the fuck up. You ain't take no flights out to fucking Vegas just for the weekend. That's what them old head sugar daddies do. That's how you spoil bitches.
I say, man, some women are just fucking delusional. And it'd be the younger ones too. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, just like he doesn't understand. How do you realistically expect this type of man to come for you? And men already know how the game is, cause from our side, yo, it's the worst. You gonna never get a high value woman to check for a broke nigga. You know what I'm saying? You don't have a wife who's a lawyer and a husband who works at McDonald's. That shit don't work like that. The fucking power women, they don't check for broke dudes. But for some reason, these chicks, just because they cute, you ain't even gorgeous or beautiful. You just kind of cute. And swear down, they gonna get a motherfucker making $500,000 a year. How? Like you tell them, man, you where you at now, doing whatever you do now. These dudes not checking for you, shorty. Yeah, if these caliber of men wanted you, somebody would have scooped you up already. They not checking for you. They not. No. There's somebody I know on Facebook was like, "Oh, that dude gay." Gay. I don't know if he gay or whatever, but motherfucker still makes sense to me, yo. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with his logic. And then once again, whoever said they thought he was gay was a woman. And I was gonna make a comment about that too, just like, I'll just leave that alone. Cause we're actually pretty cool, I guess. And I don't wanna like start some unnecessary bullshit for no reason. Hurt somebody's feelings. And now everybody's posting shit about this this other guy, this Derek, whatever his name is. So that's like the new trending thing in black media. This guy cheated on his wife. And they're all like uber Christian or something. It's so funny. So funny. That's why I tell women, man, yo, all men cheat, yo. Yeah, all men cheat. I give a fuck who they is. And if they don't cheat, that's just because they, I don't know, man, just some super simp, wimp motherfucker. I mean, I don't cheat. Me, I'm not no simp or no wimp. But I don't cheat anymore. You know, in my younger days, you just... But now, I just be focused on other shit, yo. I ain't got time running the streets. Take too much time, and I'm too broke. You know what I'm saying? Because all bitches be wanting something. Ain't no way you get pussy for free, I'll tell you that right now. You might not pay her, but you gonna pay the restaurant, you gonna pay the gas station, you gonna pay the hotel, you gonna pay somebody something to get that thing. You know, I ain't got time for all that shit no more. But I have been there. You know, and that's just a thing, yo. Manly men just do that shit, yo. I can go into the whole detailed scientific explanation of why men cheat. But I mean, just know, ladies,
My perfect example, yo, Martin Luther King. I Have a Dream. That guy, you remember that guy, civil rights guy? He cheated on his wife. Oh my damn! I have a dream that one day these hoes will stop coming for me, you know, and shit like that. And Dr. King, if Dr. King cheat on Coretta, come on, man. That's it. All man cheat, man. Oh, fuck, yo. This chick right here, she just lost in the sauce. Derek, whatever. I can't think of that dude's last name now. Anyway, I think Kevin Samuels said he was gonna have a special episode just talking about that motherfucker. Gonna burn the shit out of his ass, yo. You up here getting all these followers and fans for years, talking all this whatever shit. Cause I don't know the motherfucker. I don't listen to none of his shit. Never, wasn't even aware of this motherfucker until his little scandal blew up in the media. Now everybody knows him. But apparently he did whatever he preaches not to do. You know what I'm saying? How you telling these women all this shit about men and giving women advice about men and you out there, not just your girlfriend, bro. Your wife? Mm-hmm. I hear you. It's cool, homie. It's cool. I understand, bro. Y'all ain't gotta come out and make some explanation video and all this shit.
Like, I mean, almost like you coming off as though, I don't want to use the word an imposter, but it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't want to get too deep into how much you make, but for 28, a media correspondent, I would assume you between 40 and 75, and that's being generous. And that's with all your gigs and everything else.
Right.
That's a nice apartment and a car note. That's be able to go to La Villa Bouquet every now and then, but really, men that you date will probably pick up the slack. But that's fine. They're going to want something for that. So if you end up being closer to the norm for media correspondents, closer to the median income, not the Jenny Mines, because that's far the exception.
Right.
And you look at everybody on their panel. Lonnie Love does not look like one of the happiest people in the world. And she got a big painter. And Lonnie, you talk a lot of shit about black men, so you got it coming. You got a reborn Jeezy. But if you stick closer to what most people make, that means you're not going to be making over 6 figures. Do you really want to go the rest of your life because you need to be independent in your sense of self to where you end up 50 years old with a middling career as a correspondent, news here, this, such and so forth? I mean, you're doing okay, but you can't travel and go to Paris. It's not on your own money.
Right.
what does that look like after you're no longer able to sit in the anchor chair? Where you no longer have this youthful view. They bring in the next group of women. What does that look like? Because then you can't turn around and try to be like, well, now I'm ready to get married. No. You
Too old.
You're in the danger zone for a reason. This is the age where you ladies really have to make up your mind. Either I'm going to couple with the man of value, and I'm going to figure something out, or I'm going to go this life by myself, and I'm going to take what it gives me. And this path is not one I recommend because it's highly competitive, and no one's going to give you anything. And this path tends to end up in a lot of loneliness. So unless you know you are 100% willing to commit, and that means cutting off marriage and kids and all that other stuff, because to make this work, you can't serve two masters. You got to pick a side. I hate to break it that way, but just think about it. But you can't have everything.
Can't have it all.
And you want it all plus some.
Yeah. I tried it.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.
I'm a big fan of your work. I've read much of your work. I've seen many of your interviews and videos online. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about that I find quite interesting is consciousness. And your belief that consciousness is not simply calculation, but that there's something more to it, and what you think this more could possibly be from a scientific perspective, which is unusual because a lot of people have some theories about consciousness, but they're usually crazy people like myself.
Well, I mean, we're all conscious, and so we may have theories about it.
Yeah.
But no, the ideas came by a somewhat roundabout route. I went to Cambridge to do graduate work. It was mathematics. I was working on pure mathematical subjects, algebraic geometry. But I thought, we got 3 years, or spend some of the time going to other talks that might be interesting. So I went to 3 talks particularly, which had a big influence on me. One was a talk by Herman Bondi, was on general relativity, cosmology. Wonderful talk with very sort of animated presentation he had. And then there was a talk by Paul Dirac, one of the founders of quantum mechanics. And his talk, well, his completely wonderful talk, 2 wonderful lectures as well, but in a completely different style. He was very quiet and precise in what he said and everything. Anyway, in the very first lecture, he was talking about the superposition principle in quantum mechanics. So if you have a particle, and it could be in one spot, or it could be in another spot, then you have all sorts of states where it can be in both places at once. And that's sort of strange, but you've got to get used to that idea. And he illustrated with his piece of chalk, and I think he broke it in 2 to illustrate it could be in one spot or in the other. And my mind sort of wandered at that point. I don't know what I was thinking about. I wasn't concentrating. And about a few minutes later, he'd finished his description, his explanation, and I had some vague memory of something about energy, but I didn't understand what he said, and I've been totally mystified by this ever since. So I suppose if I'd heard what he said, he would have said something to calm me down and sort of accept it in one way or another. But as it was, it seemed to me this was a major issue. How on earth do you have things that don't behave according to what quantum mechanics says, like cricket balls and baseballs and things like that? Anyway, that's 2 of the talks. The other course was a course by a man called Steen, who taught on mathematical logic. and he explained things like Gödel's theorem and Turing machines being the mathematical notion upon which modern computers are based, or all computers basically. And the thing about Gödel's theorem, you see, I used to have a colleague when I was at undergraduate in Percival, who became a scientist later on, and we talked about logic, and you could make these kind of mathematical systems which work by logic. And I'd heard about this Gödel's theorem, which seemed to say that there were things in mathematics that you just couldn't prove. And I didn't like that idea. But when I went to this course by Steen, and he explained what it really says. And what it says is, suppose you've got a method of proving things in mathematics. And when I say things, I mean things with numbers. The one famous example is Fermat's last theorem. There's the Goldbach conjecture, which isn't yet proved, that every even number bigger than 2 is the sum of 2 prime numbers. That's the sort of example of the thing. It's just sort of mathematical things about numbers, which you can see what they mean, but it may be very difficult to see whether it's true or untrue. But the idea often is, in mathematics, you've got a system of methods of proof. And the key thing about these methods of proof is that you can have a computer check whether you've done it right. So these rules, they could be adding A and B, it's the same as B and A and things like that. And if you give you say to the computer, say, here is a theorem, like Goldbach conjecture, and you see whether it can be proved, and you say, maybe I got a proof, and this follows these steps, and you give it to the computer, and it says, yep, you've done it right, it's true. Or maybe it will say, you've done it right, and it's not true. Or it may not say anything, it might just go on forever. But these are the sort of outcomes. And the point about it is that if you believe that these procedures do give you proof, in other words, that if the algorithm says, yeah, it's true, then you believe that it is true, because you've understood all the rules. You looked at the first one and said, yeah, that's okay. You looked at the second one and said, yeah, I see. Okay, that's great. And you go all the way down, and as long as you're convinced all those rules work, and if it says yes, that's something you believe. Okay. Now what Gödel shows is he constructs a very specific sentence, a statement, which is a number thing, like the Fermat's last theorem or something, a thing about numbers, which what he shows is if you trust this algorithm for proving mathematical things, then you can see by the way it's constructed that it's true. But you can also see by the way it's constructed that it cannot be proved by this procedure. Now this was amazing to me, because it tells me that, okay, you cannot formalize your understanding in a scheme which you could put on a computer. You see, this statement which Gödel comes up with is something you can see on the basis of the same understanding that allows you to trust the rules, that it's true, but that it's not actually derivable by the rules. You see it's true by virtue of your belief in the rules. And this to me was amazing. And I thought, golly, what's understanding? What does it mean? Is it something following rules? Is it an algorithm? Well, this more or less says it's not an algorithm, because whatever it was, there would be something that you could still see is true, even though you don't get it through the algorithm that you had in the first place. So this was there are a lot of subtleties about this too, which people argue about endlessly. But it was pretty convincing to me that this shows that we don't think, when we understand something, that what's going on in our heads is not an algorithm. It's not following rules. It's something else. It's something that requires our conscious appreciation of what we're thinking about. Thinking is a conscious thing, and understanding is a conscious activity. So I formed the view that conscious activities, whatever they are, not just that kind of thing, but playing music or falling in love or whatever these things might be, are not computation, something else going on. And then I thought, because I like to think myself as a scientist, and I think that what's going on our heads is according to the laws of physics, and these laws of physics pretty good. They seem to work well in the outside world, and so I believe that the laws that work in our heads are the same as those laws. So I began to think about it. Well, what about Newton's mechanics? Well, you could put that on a computer. What about Einstein's special relativity? You could do that. What about Maxwell's wonderful equations, which tell you how electricity and magnetism operate, and light and radio waves and all these things? That all follows this beautiful set of equations that Maxwell produced. You can put that on a computer. Okay, you may have to worry about approximations, and these depend on continuous numbers rather than discrete things, but I didn't think that's the answer. Then I thought, what about general relativity, Einstein's theory of gravity with curved space and all that? Well, we're familiar now with LIGO, which has detected black holes spiraling into each other from a distant galaxy. And how do we know that those signals are black holes? Well, because of calculations. People have put this thing on an algorithm, and you know what those signals look like. So Einstein's general relativity, sure, you can put that on a computer. What about quantum mechanics? Well, there's the famous equation of Schrödinger, which tells you how a quantum state evolves. You could put that on a computer too. It's difficult in many ways. There's many more parameters you've got to worry about. But it's just as computable as these other things. Well, you see, I then remember Dirac's lecture, you see, and how it is that these things that work in the quantum world don't seem to work at the level of classical big things. And it all depends on this process of what's called measurement in quantum mechanics. And the measurement process is something you learn how to do, but it's not the Schrödinger equation, it's something else. And Schrödinger himself was very intrigued by this fact, that his own equation gives you nonsense. And the famous Schrödinger's cat, where he produces a situation in which the cat would be dead and alive at the same time, he produced that in example, seemed to demonstrate that, roughly speaking, his equation gives you nonsense under these circumstances. So there's something else. And the something else goes beyond current quantum mechanics, and it tells you what happens when the quantum state makes a decision between, well, it doesn't follow the Schrödinger equation, does one thing or the other. Everybody knows that who does quantum mechanics, but they think, oh, it's what's called making a measurement and you're allowed to do something different. But that didn't make sense to me. And so I had the view that, okay, there is a big gap in our understanding. And if there's something in the world which isn't something you could put on a computer, that's where it is. So the view, I've held that for a long time, and that there's something non-computer, something beyond computation involved in our understandings of things. So that's a view I held for ages. I didn't do much with it, I just held the view. Until I think there was a radio talk between Marvin Minsky and Edward Fredkin, and they were explaining about what computers can do, and they were talking about, okay, you have a computer, two computers talking to each other over there, and you walk up to the room, and the time you've walked up the room to the computers, they have communicated with each other more thoughts than the human race ever has done, you see. And I thought, well, I see where you're coming from, but I don't think that's what's happening. In human communication, human understanding is something different from what computers do. And consciousness is the key thing. Consciousness is the thing different from computation. So I've held that view, but then when I heard this talk by Minsky and Fredkin, I thought, well, I had ideas of writing a book sometime, a long time in the future when I'm retired. This was some while back, I say. And I thought, well, this gives it a focus. And so I wrote this book called The Emperor's New Mind, which is supposed to be saying, well, everybody seems to be thinking one thing, but the little kid notices that the emperor doesn't have any clothes. So it was that theme of that story which was the basis of the book. So I say, okay, maybe lots of people think that all we're doing is computing, but if you stand back and you say, well, no, there's something else going on. So that was the basis of my thoughts about consciousness. But I wrote this book thinking that by the time I got to the end of the book, you see, it was mostly about physics and mathematics and things like that, but I was really aiming for this thing about what's going on in conscious thinking. And I thought, I'll learn a bit about neurophysiology and so on, and by the time I get to the end of the book, I'll know pretty well what it could be. I didn't. I got to the end of the book, and I just sort of tapered off rather with something a little bit unbelievable, and that was the end. Now, you see, I hoped that this book would stimulate young people to get interested in science and that sort of thing, that mathematics, and that was fine. And when the book was published, I didn't get letters from young kids. I got letters from old retired people, who the ones who'd had the time to read my book. Okay, well, that was a little disappointing, but okay, I'm glad the old retired people liked my book. But the other thing was, I got a letter from Stuart Hameroff, and this letter said, more or less, I think you don't appreciate that there's something else going on, not neurons. I mean, the neurons, I could see you couldn't isolate the quantum effects, and you get what's called environmental decoherence would happen, and you get no way of keeping the quantum state to the level that you need in this picture. So I realized I didn't have it, but Stuart Hameroff pointed out to me these little things called microtubules, and he'd built up a theory that microtubules were absolutely fundamental to consciousness. He had his own reasons for believing that. I'd never heard of them at that time, but then I checked up. I get lots of letters from people who maybe don't make sense sometimes, the letters. And this one, I thought, well, is this another one? But then I realized these microtubules are there, and they look like just the kind of thing that could well be supporting kind of level of quantum mechanics up to a level where you could expect the quantum state to sort of collapse. That's the terminology people use in quantum mechanics.
And microtubules, they're inside brain neurons?
They are indeed.
And this is a recent discovery?
No, we've been going on for that. They're actually in lots of cells. You see, people often complain, oh, they're in your liver too, not just your brain, so why isn't your liver conscious and all that? But this has to do with the organization of them and the nature of them, the particular kind of microtubules, how they're arranged, which is different in the brain.
How does it vary in the brain compared to other cells?
I think one big difference, although not Stuart emphasizes this so much, there are two kinds of microtubules. They're the ones called the A lattice and the B lattice. And the A lattice ones are very symmetrical ones. They're tubes and they look the same all the way around. They've got a very beautiful arrangement of these proteins called tubulin, and they make a very nice arrangement, which is connected with Fibonacci numbers and things like that. So they look a bit like fir cones, but they're all parallel. They don't taper off. But the thing is, in the brain, I think most microtubules are probably what are called B-lattice ones, and they don't have so much symmetry. They've got like a sort of seam down the one side, and they're very important in transporting substances around cells and so on. And microtubules are all sorts of things. They don't just do what Stuart and I think they may be doing in the brain. So the idea is that in the brain, they're organized differently, and probably the ones that are important are the A-lattice ones, which are the very symmetrical ones. And for a long time, people couldn't see the difference because they look very similar. And they may well be the ones that happen to be in pyramidal cells as a particular kind of cell. So one of the things that interested me a lot is how it is that not all parts of the brain are the same in this respect. You see, you've got the cerebrum. This is the part at the top, and divided down the middle. And that, when you see brains, that's what you normally see with the convolutions in it. But right underneath and at the back, there's a thing called cerebellum, which looks more like a ball of wool or something. And the cerebellum, I may still be argument about this, but it seems to be that it's completely unconscious. And it has comparable number of neurons, far more connections between neurons than the cerebrum. And it's what takes control when you're driving your car and you're thinking about something else and you're not thinking what you're doing, because it's unconscious. And the unconscious control, a pianist who's very expert and moves the fingers around and plays a note with a little finger, that pianist doesn't think, well, I've got to move that muscle this way and this bone that way and so on, and it's all controlled unconsciously. And a lot of this unconscious control is done somewhere else in the cerebellum when you get really skilled. So it seemed to me, okay, you've got different kinds of structures, and it could well be that the pyramidal cells, which have a particular organization of microtubules, are the ones that where the consciousness is really coming to light mainly. I don't know. There's a lot which is not known about this, controversial and all sorts of things. But the cerebellum seems to be different and organized differently. So it's not just how many neurons, how many connections are there, because there are more in the cerebellum. So it's not that, it's something else.
Do they know this from observing the brain through fMRI or something like that during particular activities? Like
I don't know. I would imagine partly just examining it from dead people and looking at brains and trying to estimate how many neurons there are in it.
Right, but how would they know which portions
which was conscious
during particular activities?
I don't know that they do know that well, I guess. But the cerebellum, there is a bit of an argument about that whether it's completely unconscious or not. But it seems that actions that are carried out by the cerebellum, you're not aware of what you're doing. But I mean, it's, if you're a tennis player who has to think very carefully about where to tilt the ball. Now, the control of what you're doing, so overall control, is probably done with the cerebrum. But the cerebellum is controlling the detailed motions, how the fingers move and all that kind of thing. And then you make sure that if the player thinks he's going to hit the ball down the line there, and then the rest is done under the control of an unconscious procedure. I mean, I may be simplifying, but
I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that we don't totally understand, but we know that there's different parts of the brain that are responsible for different activities, and some activities don't seem to be conscious.
Yes. I mean, I think it's probably the case. No, I don't know. I shouldn't make a statement. I don't really know. But certainly there are lots of different parts of the cerebrum which maybe not conscious too. So I'm not saying that the whole thing is capable of being conscious. There seem to be differences in different parts.
But are you convinced that microtubules are responsible for consciousness, or it's a primary theory?
I think they're one of the best candidates. I don't think it's only microtubule. I don't know. I'm not sure what Stuart on this is. He certainly thinks the microtubules are exceedingly important in consciousness, and I think he's right. That's the feeling I get. And he's done a lot of work on trying to find what anesthetic gas is. It's one of the important ways you can tell things about consciousness. Most of it you can't. It's just hearsay and whatever it is. But one of the important ways you can tell something about consciousness is what turns it off in a reversible way. And Stuart's job is he's an anesthesiologist. He puts people to sleep. Well, I think he would complain if I say putting it to sleep, because under anesthetic is actually different from sleep. But you make them unconscious in a reversible way. You want to make sure that you can wake them up in. And it's obviously a very skilled thing. But I guess a lot of his colleagues might be skilled at doing it, but don't be asked the questions about what they're actually doing from the point of view of the biology and the physics and so on. So Stuart was really interested in that question. Partly, I think, things like mitosis, cell division, and he was very struck by the way that the chromosomes all line up, and that there's these microtubules which are pulling them, and they're a really big part in the structure of cells and how they behave and so on. But why their consciousness? Well, I guess it was an experience with putting people under anesthetics, and the fact that the gases which put you to sleep, and they're, again, I shouldn't say to sleep, but put you under anesthetic, are very unconnected chemicals, different kinds of things, but yet they still seem to have the same effect. And to understand what it is that they affect is, that's a lot of his interest is to do with that.
So just by putting someone unconscious and registering what parts of the brain are no longer active, this is what they're using, sort of reverse engineer by turning those parts on. That's what enables consciousness? Is this the...
Well, I think it's probably a simplification of what's going on. But that's a good first step, yes.
guys. I don't know who was here for the first 2 streams, but I did a stream when I first got home for like an hour and a half, and then stopped it, and then tried streaming on Twitch for a little while, and that didn't work, and so came back to YouTube for an hour. I've been in the studio for almost 2.5 hours this afternoon. So I'm about to go chill. Oh damn. Well, we got a good bit done on this piece. Working on the railings. And I probably play around with these sneakers, or try to do a template for this sneaker drawing for these custom shoes I have. But appreciate everybody chilling in the studio, and I'll get with you guys next time. Peace.